Okay, done. Cool. How you been?
Good, man. Pretty
Good
good,
shit.
man. Not bad. How you
You
doing?
excited? I'm good. You excited about setting all the coaching shit up?
Yeah, dude, I am.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Yeah, for sure. Like today I was just speaking about some random dude at the kava bar I went to, and I started just telling him about it because I guess out of excitement, and he was looking at me like I had two heads. He was like that it was just so foreign to him. He goes, "That is really extreme. That's intense. That's." He's like, I wish you the best of luck, man, because that's really weird. Like, just to the average, I guess, just person, like when you first hear a concept like that, that's like, he's like, does that even real? He's like, does that exist? Or like, he didn't even know what I was talking about.
I don't think it's that weird though, because like people go on like yoga retreats and shit, man. And people go on like business seminars and shit, and they'll all get together and talk about business. You're doing the same, but you're just all getting together and talking about sex. Like, how's that any different?
I agree, man. It's hard to like communicate that with someone or like a someone who you think is mainstream. Or I'm still struggling with giving myself permission to like explain exactly what it is or what it falls under what umbrella it falls under.
Do you find yourself like holding back with that shit? Like often if I'm talking to someone that's like super mainstream, I will use phrases like meeting women. Like you make it nice and it sounds good so they understand what you're saying. Working on your social skills, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I say it in a lot of different like words if I feel like I'm just not meeting him eye to eye. I'll try to rephrase it a few different times until he's like, yeah, no, that makes sense. He's like, yeah, I could see that. I could see how using a wingman would help me out a bit. And I definitely struggled with talking to girls, and then that came out of him and stuff. And soon enough, he was like, yeah, that would work. It started off
Uh,
where he was like, that's very extreme what you plan to do, and then it turned out to be like, yeah, the way you're phrasing it now is not so bad actually. Like I could see how that could be useful to men, that type of thing.
I think another way that I've found that really helps to talk about this stuff is like I call myself like the facilitator. What I mean by that is like someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I have this goal or this is the thing I want to have," and then I facilitate that for them. I'm like, "Okay, how do we get you that thing?" Like I'm just giving guys and some women I've worked with the thing that they say they want. And so
Hmm.
you're kind of doing the same thing, you know. Guys come to you and say, "Hey, I want to have sex. I want women to like me. I want to know what I'm doing. I want to feel masculine." And you go, "Cool, I'll do that for you." So
For
yeah,
sure.
I get that it's like not mainstream, but I
Yeah.
guess to us because we're with it, like we're in that world, it seems I don't know, it just seems like yeah, this guy wants to have sex. Cool, let's help him have sex. But I understand to someone who isn't in that world, what we're doing might seem extreme, but at the end of the day, it's just giving guys permission to have sex. So,
Yeah. At first, I think I was taken back a little bit by it, and then I had to
mm,
like backpedal a little bit and try to rephrase it for him to try to understand because I was so excited about it and like just me explaining it to him how like it's going to work. This will be a successful thing. I've seen a template of it before in the past to a certain extent, and I'm just going to kind of replicate it, but just do a better job. I've been on both ends of it. I've been like a student. I've been a teacher, so I'll be able to just make the very best of it. Hopefully each time we'll get better.
yeah, and I think if you give yourself permission to not be perfect at the start, because you don't like you know what you're doing at the start, but there'll be things that come up that you learn and you grow and you go, okay, next time we do it better. I think like at the very start, you see it kind of like as a learning experience. Like this is like the first draft or this is the
Hmm.
first test. Like how do we make this thing work? Because you're basically gonna, for anyone listening who has no idea what the hell we're talking about, you're starting up coaching again, and you're basically gonna offer to, I think you said 5 guys.
Right.
They come and live with you in this house or this mansion for like 6 months, right? And you're just gonna give them everything they might need. If they want to work on women, you're gonna bloody well help them with that. Like you're gonna take them out and be their wingman. You're basically going to get them to live that elite lifestyle in like 6 months, rather than taking years, which is what some guys take.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's going to help me out. It's going to help everybody out. I'm not like sitting on some pedestal over watching everybody. I'll be part of the unit, part of the crew, and just
Hmm.
just someone there with more experience. Really, it's kind of like even when I ran through like a recovery program. There's no one there who's like, oh, this guy is up there. He just has a lot
Correct.
more years of sobriety on
Yep.
someone who just walked in the room. And it's more of a, you can meet that guy eye to eye and come to him as a brother, and he'll lend whatever experience he can give to you. That's it. There's no one on a, it's not really like a teacher setting or school, like with someone above you in authority, really, you know.
And
And
that's
at
no
first
good for
that's
your
hard to,
students.
yeah, it's not. And that's part of it. And I have to acknowledge it definitely, because I know being a student, I had very high expectations for guys I worked with who I like imagined to be just levels and levels above me. And I'm like really nervous around them. And just,
Hmm.
I had extremely high expectations for these guys. They lived up to it, but it was more about take the focus eventually off of them and make this about me, and type of like shit like that, you know. Didn't want to test these people too hard. You know, whatever they could provide for me, they could provide me. Like you mentioned earlier, more of a leverage to help me, you know, achieve what I need to achieve. Really,
Hmm.
we could
Hmm.
feed off each other and somehow be
Yeah.
a channel for each other.
Yeah, you're facilitator. That's why I use
Mm,
that word. It's like, yo, I have this goal. I want my sex life to look like this, or I want my money life to look like this, whatever goal they have. And you
yeah.
just come along and go like, yeah, brother, like let's figure out how to make that happen. Like you said, it's staying in that position where you see yourself as an equal with other people. Because man, I think the second you start to call yourself like a god or the teacher or the expert, it's like you're just not open to new solutions. Like your mind closes down, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to be the problem with being the expert is you have to always fucking be the expert. You see this with politicians, you see this with like, people that put themselves up on that pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
You can't ever have a day where you say I don't know what I'm doing or I don't know the answer to that. You have to make up a fucking answer. That's not a good teacher. A teacher that would lie and make up an answer just so that they look like they know what they're talking about, that they have nothing to fucking teach you. They'll probably set you down the wrong path. So, yeah,
It's a good
staying
point.
in that staying in that like humble role is so fucking important if you want to actually help people.
It's a
Where
good
you're
point.
just like, brother, I don't have all the answers, but I'll do
Yeah.
my best, man.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point. That's a great point. Because even it might hurt initially, or you may be like lost or just dumbfounded by that particular response or reaction. You know, if you let it marinate for a little while and be like, this guy doesn't, you know, he really does not know the answer, and we're going to have to just figure it out as we go and just
Mm,
roll
mm.
with the punches. Like if we're looking for a definitive answer on a particular situation, it's just, you know, I can't provide that for you right. You know,
No,
like,
people will come to you though, like, and you probably already know this from your own coaching, right? Like in
mm-hmm,
the past, where they'll come to you and they'll be like, "What is the exact right answer of how I should always talk to this girl?" And you're like, "Bro, how the fuck do I know? Just go say hello." Like, what do you mean? What the right fucking answer is? Like, how could I know that? I don't have a crystal ball.
yeah.
Like, how am I gonna fucking know what the right answer is? But yeah, people. Did you find you had that back when you were doing coaching before? Would people just be like, "Hey, Scotty, can you please just give me your wisdom?" And you're like, "Dude, I'm just a guy. I don't fucking know. I'm just a guy." Like,
Yeah, a lot of it is, I really do think, just feeding off of each other, and
hmm,
that comes with just like, if everybody seems to be on the same page, that could have some power to it, and catch some steam, and we might not really know what's going on, but we're really all rolling, and we stop questioning everything, and kind of the whole crew or the unit is like running together as in a pack, like in sync, like a pack of wolves, and everybody's just, got their shark fin up, and everybody's operating, and we're not questioning shit. We're just, if in fact we get rejected or blown out, we're just smiling about it, and we have each other. And,
hmm.
um, you know,
Yeah, like
I,
you're not sitting around circle jerking with theory. You're like, no, we need to take action.
yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big part of it.
I think you, of all people, will be the perfect person to facilitate that. You, like a lot of the questions, we're going to go through and answer a few people's questions here today. A lot
Sure.
of them were basically along the lines of like, Scotty strikes me as the most like hardcore, just let's do this thing. Let's not sit around and overthink it. Let's just get in there. I think you definitely have a lot to offer. And I think you'll probably get some guys that come to you and they're like, I've been ready to take action. I've just been holding back. This
Hmm.
putting this money down and joining this mansion and being with you and the other guys is like my permission to just finally be the person that I want to be. Like I'm gonna stop sitting on the sidelines and just being like a little wallflower who waits for the right time. Now fuck this. Like now is the right time. I think you'll be the perfect person to like push people with that because you've never really struck me as someone that sits around and like overthinks something for years before taking action.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, I was never really a big reader. My friend initially like pushed me into doing one of those workshops like right from the beginning. I didn't even have a lot of the uh, pickup jargon like rolling around my brain going
That's
into
probably a
the
good thing.
workshop. Yeah, that was a good thing. That's from what the coaches were telling me. They were just like, go. They saw I was having some results and I wasn't using a lot of their stuff, and they were just like, stick with it, which was cool. They gave me permit. Once they saw that, they were just like, stick with what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep going direct. And he's like, don't let that. Some of the other students may be confused by that. They might approach you and be like, why is this
And
guy
tell you you're
following?
doing it wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why aren't these guys? Why isn't this guy following the blueprint here? Just um, they had to explain that everybody's on different levels and there are certain approaches. Stick with what works. If you guys believe solely that you need to approach a woman through some sort of like question answer type of form, uh, or some line to make her laugh
Yeah.
initially. There's all sorts of beliefs, and that's really what it boils down to. It comes down to that's what stands between me and the woman. All my judgments and beliefs about that is what I'm. That's basically what I'm battling. Like when that's the only thing that stands between you and that woman from looking at you with completely fresh eyes. The universe gives us a new outlook or a fresh face to look upon us and not hold any reserve, any judgments about us all the time. But so
Yeah, it's like
we're
each new woman you talk to is like a blank slate, like a fresh start. Yeah.
it's wild, yeah.
Mm.
That's where I think we were talking about last time. That whole monogamy comes into play. It's like we're getting like conflicting messages. We're told, that you should be with just one woman, but then we're seeing something else. There's like
Mm.
an abundance of women with new faces, and you have a little like drama with one particular girl going on, and then then you have a brand new face who's smiling at you, who's very interested and curious about you. It's like, whoa. So it's showing me something else. I'm being told
Mm.
to like, you know, bare my soul, to be with just this particular woman, let her know all my little secrets and she can know all my little tendencies and stuff. But then there's a woman who wants to see you in a new light, totally fresh, so which is contrary to what we're just harbor and just be with this one particular woman. But
Yeah, I'm always very cautious when people tell me what I should do, or especially when mainstream society says what like the right thing to do is. I've always been a big fan of saying like, no, just do what feels right for you. Like you got to figure out what's right for you, and obviously make sure you're not hurting anybody else, and like that
mm-hmm,
stuff goes without saying. But whatever feels good for you, go with that. I do
yeah,
agree. Like a lot of mainstream pushes like the idea of like the one, like the
mm-hmm,
soulmate, like Disney and Hollywood and all of that. Like, there's one girl out there for you and she's perfect. And it's like, well, what happens if she fucking dies? What do I do then? Am I just fucked for the rest of my life? What happens if we aren't compatible? What if happens if she wants kids and I don't? What
mm-hmm.
happens if blah blah blah? Like, yeah, we could go down a big rabbit hole of that stuff, man.
Yeah, it's like there is like a 50% or divorce rate or something, but like there's
In
so many
America,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, there's so many people adamant that it's like the only way to go. That's crazy, and they'll
Mm.
look down upon you for like saying that there's even another option. Like when I first heard even the concept that you could possibly have sleep or be with multiple women, have some sort of
Yeah,
rotation, I was blown away.
me
I was
too.
shocked.
I fought it so long. I was like, that's messed up. That's misogynistic. That's using women. That's bad. Yeah. I had all of that thoughts. All of those thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even
Speaking,
now,
let's
like
put.
I live with my parents, and I'll get all the time, like maybe you'll meet the one. That's just
Yeah.
ingrained in the generation prior to us. They're just totally ingrained. So it's rare to get some OGs that are just like they don't give a fuck, or like they're in their 40s or 50s, and they just been playing that, juggling one or two girls. But an old Italian guy once told me, he said to me at a very young age, he saw that I was like heartbroken and just wrapped up with this one chick. And he just said, he's like, you always have to have a spare tire. I didn't quite get it at the time, but that was like, he was against the grain. This old, wise Italian guy was against anything I ever heard. He's like, make sure you always have a spare tire. That was one of the keys, words of wisdom he shared with me. As hard as it was to achieve, he was right.
And when people say like maybe you'll find the one, like just wait and you'll find the right girl. That to me is taking away all the power from you. You're basically saying it's just going to be complete random luck. I'll just be walking down the street one day and I'll find my soulmate. Like that
Mm-hmm.
takes away your agency or your ability to actually make that happen. I'd much rather say to guys like, no, go out and talk to a bunch of women, get some sexual experience, date, learn, grow, do all of that stuff. And if you meet a woman that you think is awesome and you want to settle down with her, great, do that. If you meet a woman that you think is awesome and you want to do what I'm doing, where you have like a threesome relationship, you date other girls, do that. Like, but basically put yourself out there and meet a lot of people and then figure out what you want. I think it's such a weird thing to say to people, you're just going to find your soulmate. How? They're not talking to women. They're not going out and approaching. They're not like, how would they meet that woman? Just
Yeah.
randomly?
Yeah, it's more fairy tale what actually is
Mm,
considered normal. What is considered
mm,
normal, that's why people are often confused and don't know which path to take, because when you dissect it a little bit, you're like, wait a minute, what? Like, how is that possible? I need to mingle. I need to go network and interact with abundance of what, like, it's almost, and then something that is the only path, really, there's no way around that, is like frowned upon. What do you mean it's
mm.
frowned upon? Like, that's what you're suggesting is often frowned upon, yet it is like a logical, rational path to some success with women. If that indeed is some like, love story that you go off with some girl and it like all happens to work out perfectly like that. God bless you. So,
Mm. Yeah, but I think people take it. You say it's frowned upon. I think that's because people make a bunch of assumptions with it. So the first assumption they will make is if you're sleeping with lots of women, you must be lying to them, you must be manipulating them. They don't want to do it, but they're just putting up with it.
mm-hmm,
Um, you're not telling them that you're dating other people or sleeping with other people. Also, you must be lying to get in their pants. Here's the
mm-hmm.
other assumption that people will often make: sex must be the only thing you care about. And you're saying, and you're telling people that's the only thing that matters, and it's like I never said any of that. Also, you can do all of this being completely fucking upfront and honest,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not making a woman do anything. Why would you want to do that? That's not fun. Why would you want to have sex with someone that you had to make have sex with you? That's not
Yeah.
hot. That means she doesn't like you. How's that fun? That's not fun. So yeah, lots of assumptions get made, man. But when you I've found like when I explain to people like, and some of my coaching clients have done this too. They'll tell someone, I'm going out to have a lot of sexual experience. I want to get laid. I want to have sex, and the person will have a bad reaction, and then they'll say, no, no, no. But like all the women are happy to do this. I tell them up front that I'm doing this. They know that I'm sleeping with other women. And then the
Mm-hmm.
person goes, okay, well, maybe it's not so bad then. So I think people just make assumptions, man.
Yeah, you're right, dude. And sometimes it takes, if you want to meet eye to eye with that person and you would like them to understand your point of view, yeah, you
Mm,
have to just rephrase it a few times. And, maybe they just haven't considered it. Like this one older guy who I was just sitting next to at a kava bar tonight, explaining to him what exactly I was doing and what I was doing for a living. He just needed to hear it a few different times. And he's like, like you said, it's not that it shouldn't be that foreign. It shouldn't be some
yeah.
wacky off the, some alien type of experience. Like you said, like it's more common to say, oh, I've been in a recovery program. That's more well known than something like that. Or that's still a form of self-improvement. You're still trying to better yourself and have positive relationships with women that you meet in the program or other sober-minded people.
Mm.
It's all kind of the same thing condensed into like a program where a healthy sex life just seems to be a little more taboo than other
It is
aspects.
so
Yeah.
fucking taboo, man.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. And it's important, man. Especially like I said, after get going like 7 years without it and that type of drought and uh, that type of celibacy. I'm actually glad now in hindsight I did, because I have such a greater appreciation for how powerful it is, how important it
Mm.
is. Uh, just to be able to come and to have some physical contact with another human being is huge. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's a little thing. And what I mean is, if some guy comes to me or comes to you or someone else and says, "Look, I'm fucking miserable. I haven't had the touch of a woman in years, or maybe I'm a virgin and I'm in my 30s. Like,
Hmm.
maybe I've had some women, but it just feels random and I feel like I have no fucking control over it. I feel like I'm hopeless in my life. I feel like I have no control over anything. I have to just wake up and watch fucking Disney movies and hope that I meet my princess, but I don't meet my fucking princess. Other people are. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna say to that guy like, "Oh, bro, it's just sex. It's just sex, bro. It's there's more to life than sex." It's like he's told me that he's hurting. He's told me that he's suffering. He's told me that he has desires, that he wants something, that he wants to feel like he's valid. He wants to feel like he fucking matters. It's like
Yeah.
that's not a small thing. That's quite fucking important.
It really is, man. It really is, and there's really no alternative. I guess there's sex therapists and stuff but it's a little more discreet and it's harder to get a hold of, and they charge an arm and a leg if you have to be in Hollywood. Like it's just not as common as if you. Sometimes the only resources available are like an alcoholic anonymous type of room or something like that. But yeah, it's absolutely important, man, to have that stuff. And
Let's answer
there's not
some.
a lot of answers. So I do think this is stuff that you're doing is really invaluable to society. And we're really doing, to even step up to the plate and take this on is admirable in its own. It takes courage to really take part of it and try to like revolutionize the game, the industry, and just turn it upside down and get everybody on deck, get everybody on board with it, where it's not some big taboo thing, or it's really this rare thing that you have to have access to. If you make millions and millions of dollars, you have access to some, sex therapist will teach you all the tricks. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah,
shouldn't
and
be that way.
I think Chris, as in Good Looking Loser, was pretty good at making it. Even though he said like he was anti-mainstream, he was pretty good at making it a little bit more mainstream. He put his face out there, he put his real fucking name out there. Like
Sure.
that was fucking huge to me. Like that inspired me so much. I then was like, okay, well if I'm going to start my own website, I have to put my face on the website. I have to put my name. I can't lie and use a fake name. Like I got to be out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, he gave me so much courage, and I think he's probably given a lot of guys. And we've built that. Like on our forums, you have to show your fucking face. If you're going to show up, sign up for the forums, you got to show your fucking face. Like any of the coaching clients that I've had, where I've interviewed them, hey, how was the coaching for you? What did it change? I, the vast majority of them will show their face on the camera. I think
Yeah.
we've already done a decent amount of saying like, look, if you want sex, as long as you're being honest with every woman that you meet and all of that kind of shit, like that's a beautiful thing. I think we've made it a little bit more like acceptable. I won't say we've changed the fucking world or something, but like anyone
Hmm.
who's come into our community, I think they're a lot more comfortable with their sex life, or at least admitting that they want to have a sex life. Whereas in the past, yeah, it was like taboo. It was this weird thing of like, is there something wrong with me that I care about sex this much? Is there something wrong with me that I don't know how to have sex right now? Does that mean I'm a fucking loser? Like, I think we've pushed past that stuff and made it just more of a desire that you have, and let's hope you get that. It's not that big a deal, you know what I mean? It's not this weird thing.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's a great outlook on things. That was one of my very first influencers. Like this guy, really, I connected with on one of the audios that the guy Brad P was giving out. Like I said, his name was the Pheromone Kid. He wasn't in the community. He was a friend of his. He was a musician, but he had an interview series, and he just made it like you just said, so nonchalant about his approach and how his direct style was. It was resonating with me at the time, and it
Mm.
still does. Nothing that isn't direct and any. Just weed them out, man. Just weed them out. There's enough to go around where if they're just not interested, they're not available. You'd rather just be straightforward and honest about it, no matter what it takes. You heard him recently, like when I interviewed that guy Charlie. Is like one thing I picked up from you is that even to verbalize it, if you're at a stalemate and you're just running out of something to say, and just say, I just want to hook up with you tonight.
Yeah, I just
People,
blurt that shit out. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
just say it, just say it.
yeah, yeah. I think there's this idea that you have to like always know the perfect thing to say, or you can never just say your intentions. You have to find a sneaky way of saying it, and it's like am I trying to fucking lie to this woman to have sex with her? Can't I just say to her like, "Yo, you're a guy, you're a woman, I'm a man, you're hot. Do you want to go hook up? Do you want to come back to my place?"
Hmm.
And man, that question. There's so much material on the internet that will say, "How do I respond when she says, 'Why are we going back to your place?'" And they're like, "Well, tell her you're just going to watch Netflix. Tell her you're just going to like cook meal." And it's like, "Why don't you just say like, because you're hot and I want to fool around a bit? Is that something you want to do? Do you want to fool around with me? Yes or no? If you don't, that's cool. I don't care. Like we'll do it next time or never." Like yeah,
Absolutely, man. Yeah,
there's so much like game stuff out there where it's like you got to have the right things to say and all of that. And it's like you can do that stuff if you want to, but don't lie to yourself and tell yourself that it's necessary or needed. You don't have to do that
absolutely,
shit. You can literally just say, "Do you want to hook up?" And then some of the
absolutely.
girls will
Yeah,
go like, "Okay," and you're like, was it that easy?" Yes,
it's
yes,
very good to get. I definitely you'll see that when you're around me, or you'll see that the in and out stuff is it's happening a lot quicker. Things are happening a lot quicker. Like I'm not wasting too much time really talking. On occasion, if I'm exhausted at the end of the night and I'm really intrigued by some girl's conversation, so it's never
sure,
black and white cookie cutter. If I feel like talking, I'm just tired, and the girl's interesting, I'll entertain it depending on the circumstances. But if I'm usually with the guy and our intentions are clear, I have a lot of energy at the beginning of the night. Yeah, I'm usually in and out pretty quickly. Just like if something sticks, something sticks. Yeah, I'm saying stuff like that. Let's hook up. I want to hook up with you and shit like that. Just putting it out there right away. It's like
honestly, yeah.
we're already in a different category as it is. We're cold approaching, which puts us in a different percentile of men as it is. So you just become this weird type of guy if you're just talking with no real clear intention. It could get kind of weird. You're like this weird dude who's just kind of like talking,
You're
you
like
know.
a weird alien. Yeah, it's like yeah,
Yeah, it's not weird to be the guy who like put his hand on her lower back and said like I want to hook up with you. You're smoking hot and just made your you're very interested in having sex with you, and escalating this further. Like let's go back to my house. Or I was mentioning that with my student. Just keep mentioning to him like don't be ashamed to say you have a beautiful place right down the block. That's what you've worked hard for that. You've earned that. Be proud to show her that place. Your logistics are, 10 out of 10. That's one of the things that you should bring up pretty quickly if she's
be
engaged.
excited about it.
Yeah, be
Like you know what
excited
I mean?
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, that's gonna be a whole new aspect of my game. Even up to this point, I haven't had a home base or a place that I really truly love, or a place that I would be happy to take a student to, a friend to, a girl to,
Mhm.
and say, that's a big aspect. You've earned that, and you should be proud to show her your pad. That's another thing. Be excited about it, definitely.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
guy was like blown away by it. He's like, yeah, wow. He's like, yeah, it should be like brought up within the first couple minutes of your conversation. If you guys are interested in each other, you're holding her hand like pretty quickly, or you're touching her, and you guys should be talking about like, so let's go. I want to show you my new place. If you're down to like check it out, just let's go for a walk or whatever. Especially if she's by herself, you really hit the gold mine at that point. It gets
Mhm.
tricky with there's when those girls are in groups and stuff at nighttime, and the dynamics could get a little sticky at times. And there's so many cock blocks, especially the young girls. They have their status to uphold most of the time, but you still got to put it out there.
Yeah, you still ask. Let's answer some of these questions. Otherwise, we're never going to get to them.
Okay.
MF Bag says, "I want some content that's just entertaining, like stories about some crazy girl or some memorable date or some tattoo story or something like that from Scotty." So, are there any stories that like jump out to you, man? Like any really interesting women, any interesting nights, any
Sure,
crazy
sure.
stuff?
Yeah, man. Definitely, man. I've had a lot. But yeah, one that well, you mentioned tattoos, so I'll go with that.
Hmm.
You would think I had a lot more success in tattoo shops and stuff like that, and pulled a lot of girls out of tattoo parlors and stuff like that. But maybe on count on both hands, like how many girls. I'd have to really think. But this one particular girl comes to mind. She was getting a tattoo, and it was a same day pull, and she was. Um, she getting a tattoo done? She might have been getting work done, or making an appointment rather, and I was getting a tattoo done. That's right. Um, and I just brought we hit it off. I was just rapping with her, basic conversation. Said, "Hey, do you want to come back to my house? We'll chill and keep this going a little bit." And again, this was all living at my parents' house. I brought these women back, and we went right down into the basement. And it was she was just super
Bro,
sexual,
you
dude.
know
And her story
that
was
bus
wild. Yeah,
that
her
busts
story.
through so many fucking stereotypes. Like the guy living
Yeah,
in his mum's basement is
yeah.
still getting laid.
It's almost like from the movie, like The Wedding Crashers. If those people have seen it with the OG, like the Will Ferrell's the OG, and he's still like telling his mom to make him a sandwich, and he's still banging these hot ass girls coming in and out of his house. Yeah, I felt like that at times for sure.
Hmm.
Absolutely, this is going to be a whole new world for me. Like going having my own pad that I spent time like making my own. I'm going to be there and shit like that's going to feel totally unique to me. I've always had
Hmm.
to improvise. I'm always like a tumbleweed of a person, a rolling stone going from place to place, couch potato. Never really outside of always going back to my parents' house and having to live under that dynamic. But
Hmm.
this girl had a very interesting story. Yeah, she ended up coming back. My tattoo shop was in like the ghetto, right? It was in a pretty shitty neighborhood. This girl had a bullet hole. She had a bullet hole like in the bottom of her foot or something. She got with like a ricochet, yeah. She had a bullet wound off a deflection, off a shootout by her complex, her project building. She was a very attractive black girl, and like we had a really good time. It was a blast. And I ended up driving her back to her. I was scared shit. I drove her back. I'm like, this is real. What this girl's telling me about, and
Yeah, am I
I
gonna
drove.
get shot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I dropped her back off at the end of the night at her project building, and it was wild, man. That was my tattoo pull, like straight directly from the tattoo shop to my house. Then we had a good time. Just brought her back to her projects. So that was cool, man. And cause that's why I'll always remember that chick because uh, she got shot. She got deflected in a shooting. So that was pretty wild.
Any other crazy stories?
But some of those, I'm glad that some of the stuff was posted. I need to go back and because I was uh, documenting most of my lays at the time on the forums, whether it was I think it was the 40/40 club that started. Then I switched over doing a lot of my lay reports and shit and documenting all of it. I didn't get nearly every one, but I did. I was consistently doing it for a while. Um,
I feel like
but
some of this stuff would be material that like you could put out yourself. You could kind of like I don't know, start a YouTube channel or something and just kind of like read out some of your old stories and go like, "Oh man, I remember this chick." Like that stuff does really fucking well.
that's good. Yeah, that's good to keep in mind. What was I gonna say? Yeah, someone linked. I think it was one of your moderators. He linked me to. I didn't even know I still had access to all of my old like lay reports and shit like that.
Nice.
So it's up in the internet. It's in internet space somewhere. So that's good to know, man. I wish I did every single one of them. I mean, how did you do with documenting your stuff throughout your years? Did you document
I like
stuff?
documented lots of it, and I've still kept a lot of it. I have like on my actual website like a list of it's just called like sex stories, and
Okay.
I've got like pictures and videos and like photo shoots we've done together and all of that. I haven't kept all of them. I've just put like I think the best like 60 or something like that because a
Yeah.
lot of them were just not that interesting. It's like talk to this girl, she likes you,
Yeah.
have sex with her, cool. So I've kept the really crazy ones like
Hmm.
you know, foursomes that I had. I had sex with some girl in an alleyway and then immediately went to a bar and met some other chick and had sex with her. Um, my girlfriend took a girl's virginity, as in she wore like a strap on dildo
Oh
and
wow.
took this other girl's virginity. That was fun. Just like the interesting stuff, the weird stuff that you might not normally do. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go through it again, man. And some of these things you would think stick out to me, but unfortunately, I really do think, sadly, this will be like a
this
new.
is like 10 years ago, though.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of it, I definitely was whacked. I mean, I was definitely like always like under the influence of something. It could have been crystal clear in my memory as it come
Mm.
back to me, or reading things. That's unfortunate, but this whole second half phase of my life, I'm excited to see where it goes because my fundamentals are like I feel totally intact from
Mm.
many years ago and not doing anything. I feel good about it with the stuff that I truly believe in. As long as I present my best like version where you can maximize your looks and your style, you're in good physical, do in somewhat decent physical shape and good condition. Uh, yeah, I mean, I wasn't pulling girls when I was homeless. I really wasn't. I got to be honest with you. I just was not, and I wasn't looking nor really even trying. So,
Mm.
but once it's crystal clear, yeah. So, I'm trying to think what other stories, but tattoo parlors were you would think I would have capitalized more on tattoo shops, but um, that was one directly from the tattoo shop, which was nice. That worked out very well, and I'm going to really keep that in mind going forward too. Tattoo, like that dynamic of bringing girls from tattoo shops back home that you just meet is it's interesting for sure. You know,
You can
because
rent a
things have
little
become
tattoo.
more. Yeah, they've become more. Getting a tattoo now is like going to a doctor's office now. It's like uh, it's like a beautiful office, and
Oh
yeah,
man, yeah.
yeah,
There's one like just down the road from where I live, bro. It's got like ferns and trees and like
right,
fucking like a disco light and shit. It looks amazing. It's so fucking pretty. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I know what you mean, man. Yeah.
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 So
Let's jump. Let's change to the next question. So, hard to focus says, "Hey Scotty, you intimidate me." In my in my mind, I'll be honest. You used to intimidate me too back in the day. In my mind, you're the ultimate hardcore, polarizing, no fucks given bad boy. In your experience, how important is it to be polarizing with your looks and your vibe and your personality when it comes to dating? Is it something that you would encourage other guys to do? Like, be really polarizing.
polarizing is like, could we just define that? What is polarizing? I mean, I don't
Yeah,
use
bro.
that. Yeah.
I fucking wrote down because I had some notes. I was gonna say I wouldn't use the word polarizing. The word that I would use is like standing out. Like
Okay,
Chris
Stan.
even talked about that. Like be someone interesting. Don't be like every other guy. So
Hmm.
if we say polarizing, I think what he means is like some girls will really like you and other girls will just be like, fuck no. Like I'm not gonna get with a guy with face tattoos who's like super edgy, like no thank you. And so
Yeah,
you are like a hardcore no to some chicks. I mean,
sure.
I am too on Tinder. I literally have my first picture as a picture of me and my girlfriend, and she's blindfolded and her ass is showing. And
Yeah,
the bio says, like, in an open relationship, do you want to come and have sex with us? So,
really.
like,
Yeah, that's nice. That's good,
that
man.
polarizing shit, I'll let you answer first and then maybe I'll give my thoughts.
Sure.
Do you think every guy has to be polarizing like that?
Uh, that's a great question, man. I did it. Yeah, I think I did it to get attention. Sure, to stand
Mm,
out from the crowd because there's just so many people, especially growing up in New York, a very busy city. So yeah, you
mm,
do everything to try to get some sort of an advantage or grab the opposite sex attention or try to find your niche or what you dig. What type of style are you drawn to?
mm,
What's calling you? What style are you yeah, like I said, what style are you drawn to? And just kind of
mm.
run with it. Yeah, I do think you should try to run with something that you feel like, oh, I could fuck with that style and stick with it and make it like turn it into your own,
Yeah,
customize it into your own, if you see a guy who's like really attractive who fits your type of phenotype or your style of face or something, you can use that as like a template and try to copy it and make it into your own, obviously. But if you really resonate with it, there's nothing, you're not really stealing too much. You're just resonating with what that guy, how he's presented himself. It would kind of just be like a role model or something, or someone you looked
yeah,
up to in the game, or it could even be a fictional character or someone from a
yeah,
movie
yeah,
that you like admired his presentation, his vibe, and what he was about. Yeah, I had a lot of those guys for sure growing up to latch
yeah,
onto, or that I kind of like uh, modeled it after, and I figured all the people that kind of influenced my manhood or changing and growing into a man like became my own self, and I'm still
yeah. You put
learning
little
with it.
bits together from different guys. Yeah, yeah. And you figure
Yeah,
out your own shit. Yeah, for sure. So
yeah,
you
and
would
then all of
say,
that in itself, when you do that and you make a conscious effort to do that and run with it, yeah, then you just naturally have this sort of polarizing vibe to you. Yeah.
yeah. I
So
guess
yeah, absolutely would be encouraged. We're already almost doing it. I guarantee you, if you ask this kid that asked that question, who is some of your people have a reference point of someone they if he thought I was a polarizing figure, or what type of style did you pick up on from this guy, and would you like to copy it to a certain extent and use it and keep that style alive, really? And you just
Mm.
you're just like an extension of that style, of this guy's presentation of what he's about.
Yeah, and that will be very personal. And because I think maybe he didn't really ask this, but maybe this is another question that he would have asked is like, should I
Mhm.
copy Scotty's style? And it's like, if you vibe with it, if you like it, then yeah. If
Yeah.
it's not you, don't fucking go out and get face tattoos tomorrow. Fuck
Mhm.
no. If you
Right.
don't like, I've said that too because people have said like, I got a bit of ink. I have
Yeah. Yeah.
four tattoos.
You got some here, right? Yeah.
I got the fucking the wrist ones. Yeah, yeah.
That was nice.
Um, and people have said to me like, oh, should I get tattoos? And I'm like, no, I knew I wanted tattoos, and they're very fucking meaningful to me. I thought about each one for like a year before I got it. I'm someone
Right.
that's like very scared to get tattoos. Like it took me a long fucking time. I
Hmm.
wouldn't tell some other guy to go out and get ink if he doesn't want to. No, like
Yeah.
don't don't make a permanent decision like that. So I think you can try different polarizing vibes or styles. You
Hmm.
could try dressing like the edgy bad boy. Then you could try putting on a fucking suit if you wanted to. Try
Yeah.
different styles and see what fits you. But
Yeah. You can
yeah, I
make it
agree
fun.
with you, man.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
make it fun,
yeah,
but I do think it's an important aspect for sure. To we all already have something that drew us. It drew that guy opened us out. He was polarizing, or we all have some reference point for
yeah.
sure.
Someone that you
Especially
like
if you feel
respect.
like if you are asking these type of questions, you're interested in it. Like maybe you don't have something like that right now, or you'd like to add to something that you have right now. That's why you're asking the questions to begin with. I would personally hire a fashion. I'm not a big fashion guy. I could be into it. My dad was always very much into fashion, so I attribute some of the success I have with like just being a stylish person growing up in high school and when I graduated, like he was always really keeping a pulse on like what's popular in fashion. My dad was actually really into that. He'd spend a lot of money because he was a successful businessman on like nice jeans, True Religion clothes, and it would immediately catch the girls' attention. Like a lot of the stuff actually would work. Girls
Mm.
would see the nice clothes and the jeans, and it would get remarks otherwise that I wouldn't have gotten. When you're rocking nice, expensive clothes, people are going to notice things, sure. And
Yeah,
it's
good
yeah,
looking loser had an article called "Dress Like a Somebody, Not a Nobody," and he basically said, look, whatever vibe you want to go for it, but you have to have a vibe. You're trying to stand out because there are so many guys out there that just wear like just a normal t-shirt. Maybe it has like a band on it, like a rock band or something, and they don't
yeah,
really brush their hair. They haven't had a haircut in forever. They don't trim their fucking beard and keep it decent. They
hmm,
don't dress currently. They're just basically wearing the clothes that their mother bought for them when they were like a teenager.
yeah.
They've just kept like it's mummy's fashion. Like what mum bought me, I'm just gonna keep that. And
If I didn't
if you
have, sorry to
dress
cut
like
you off.
that, you'll
If I
fit
didn't
in with
have,
that.
yeah, exactly. If I
Yeah,
didn't
good.
have a guy like my father or an influence of something, I honestly would be the type of guy to try to reach it. Yeah, I was interested in that or trying to develop my identity, whether it was through people I've seen on movies or television shows or pop culture, someone who has a really cool style on it and a pulse on it. If they have access to money, there's a knockoff of this guy's clothes. You could find something where you can, where you don't need to spend, $2,500 for a Louis Vuitton bag that I really like. I want to get my hands on like a nice Louis Vuitton bag, or you could, yeah, copy some styles that you like from you musicians or actors and stuff like that. There's plenty of resources out there, but yeah, you should definitely be uh, not just wear what mommy gave you for sure. Even if she's like she
Yeah,
might be a stylist, right? Though, so I mean, unless your mom is like really got a great pulse on fashion, go with it. By all means, go with your mom's uh, style.
yeah. For the one guy out there who has a mother who's a fashion guru, right? Like, and he's
Right,
like, "What are you talking about? My mom's a fucking expert."
right,
But
exactly, exactly.
yeah, I think on the topic of being polarizing as well, you don't have to just be polarizing by being super edgy or like a bad boy or don't give a fuck or any of that. That's one way of being really polarizing. That works pretty fucking well. But what you're really trying to do is just be someone relatively interesting. You're just trying to be different from all the other guys out there. So that could be like, I don't know, maybe you have a really cool hobby. Maybe you're fucking rich. Maybe you have a ton of muscle and you dress pretty well. Maybe like me, you're into BDSM or something, or you have a girlfriend that you sleep with girls together. That's something that you're offering. You're basically saying I'm slightly different from all the other guys, and
Yeah.
you're standing out in that way. So I don't know that you have to be this like bad boy who's just ultra aggressive and all of that. That's one way of doing it, sure, but that was never really me. I've always been like the nice, polite guy who just says what he wants, and if she wants that, awesome. That's my fucking shtick. So
Mhm.
yeah, I
Yeah, it's
think being
interesting.
polarizing.
And I think you get a really good perspective, even as a teacher student combination, where some of the feedback or some of it's on footage. There's a lot of
Mm,
benefits to it because now even I was told, like from a different perspective, from an my students telling me, "Oh, well, you were very polite. You're coming across very polite. I did not expect you to be that way," and apologize to a girl if indeed you felt like you calibrated too fast or she was highly
yeah,
insulted by what you did. You went against conventional pickup wisdom and you let your guard down and said you genuinely apologized from the bottom of your heart.
yeah,
You were upset that you didn't want to hurt her. You know what I mean? And then
yeah,
he was taken back by that. So yeah, you could be a lot of different things. You can certainly be like a chameleon and try out a lot of different things. You could be a lot of different things and see what works for you.
yeah,
It's part of the fun. It
yeah.
should be very fun, man.
And it might change over time. I dressed and my vibe was way different 5 years ago than it is now. So that vibe can change over time as you change. But on
Sure.
what you said before, where you said like you apologize to a woman if you've offended her, and I do the same shit, by the way. If I
Yeah.
think she's being unreasonable, I'm not going to apologize. But like if she's hurt, I'm going to be like, oh look, I didn't mean to hurt you. Like that wasn't my intention. Look, here's what I meant. Blah blah blah. One of
Mhm.
the questions that one of the guys asked, Bonzo34 said, Scotty did extreme stuff and extreme approaches. Did he get desensitized when a girl didn't like him or when they were creeped out or offended? He strikes me as someone who's empathetic to girls and not someone who has no social awareness. So for me, I'm not sure what to do if the girl is uncomfortable. What should I do?
Well, there you go. I mean, as you get better at it and you're able to calibrate and be aware of what just took place when you approach her and what type of reaction you got and what type of reaction you received, yeah, you're able to just say, wait a minute, this girl's really like upset with what I did and I offended her. Either you can walk away or you can, look at this girl and say, listen, from the bottom of my heart, I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't,
Hmm.
that was not my intention. And immediately a girl will go, well, wait, I appreciate that. I've had girls almost come to
Yeah.
tears to me saying, wow, I didn't, thank you so much for saying that to me. It really meant a lot. I really needed that. She was going through a lot. I have no idea what some of these people are going through.
I've had some girls like
Yeah.
that where I've hit on them and they've just freaked out. Like I had one girl that just like had a fucking panic attack when I was so nice too. And
Yeah.
she's like having a full on panic attack. I'm like, whoa, 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 like come sit here, come. Like I got her to sit on a bench and she's like having a full blown panic attack and shit. And I'm like, I'm really fucking sorry. Like, and all I had done was basically tap her on the shoulder and said, hey, you're cute. And we had this conversation. I was like, I'm really fucking sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. And she's like, I'm just going through some shit right now. I've had some sexual trauma. You tapped me on the shoulder and it freaked me out. Like, I'm so, and I just sat there and I was like, I'm really fucking sorry. Like, that
Yeah.
was not my intention. I'm really sorry. And she's like, you're being so nice to me. Thank you for being nice. And I'm like, I didn't mean to fucking hurt you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I completely get that, man. Like, some chicks are just going through a rough thing. And no matter
Oh
how
yeah.
nice you are, it's like, she's just not in the mood to talk to someone that day.
Yeah. Yeah. And oftentimes I want to express that too and actually give her a moment of comfort and let her know that that's not what I really meant. I didn't want to hurt you
Hmm.
like that. And I apologize and I'm sorry that whatever you're going through, I did not mean to do that. I could take it down totally different notches. If you're come across so extreme, you're in a subway station and you happen to be going 100 miles an hour at some girl. Yeah, that could be tough, man. And some girl gives you, get the fuck away from me type of thing. But you can totally diffuse that. And
You
if you,
still de-escalate that. You go
yeah,
like,
you can
I'm really
de-escalate
fucking
that.
sorry. I'll leave
Yeah,
now. I
and
really didn't mean to upset you.
and then
I hope
you'll
you have a
get
good rest of the day.
in fact, you'll get sometimes a positive reaction
Yeah.
back, which I've gotten many times. And thank you so much. I really needed that. I appreciate that. And we felt better about that exchange. So yeah, absolutely.
I think it's about knowing what you're there to do. It's like going into it with good intention. What I mean by that is if you really know what you're there for and what your purpose is obviously to hit on some women, to get some dates, to have sex. Like that's your mission. And for other guys, maybe they want to do all that and then a relationship. That's a separate discussion. But your mission is there to probably meet her and have sex with her or get to know her. Your mission is also to do that in a way where you're only doing that with the people that actually want to be with you. You're not trying to convince anyone to do it if they don't want to be there. And you're trying to leave the girls better than you found them.
Mhm.
Like, after you finish dating them, you want it to have been a good experience for them. You don't want them to regret it. And, you can't always fully control that. But you're trying to do your part to show her a good time, to treat her, decently and all of that. So then you can feel good about what you're doing. And you can go, no, I'm not just being like a narcissistic asshole. I'm not trying to use women. I'm not lying to them. I'm not just getting sex at any cost. I'm having sex in like a way where I feel good about it and I want to keep doing it. And if you go into it with that intention, if she blows you out or she's having a bad day or she says like, look, I'm not interested, go away. Because in your mind, you're like, I want every girl or most girls that I talk to be better than I found them. You'll then just naturally say like, hey, look, I'm really sorry. Like I was just trying to give you a compliment. I understand if I annoyed you. I'll leave now. Like, I hope you have a good
Yeah.
rest of the day. Like you have that good positive intention. So I
Dude,
think
if
it's
you
just
did
about,
that to if you did that to me, I would feel like, and I was in a bad mood, and you said something to me or trying to sell me something, and then you blow up. This applies to a lot of different social scenarios where
mm,
if
mm,
a human being outbursts in some way, doesn't know what's going on, what you're doing, or something, and it's taken off guard and explodes or something like that. Yeah, you're able to diffuse this, and it helps in a lot of different situations. One of the very first like PUA guys that I went out with, and he was showing me the ropes. He was able to de-escalate situations, and we were in bars and clubs, and he got caught up in scuffles and was able to diffuse
mm,
physical altercations. Well, I was extremely impressed, and I showed that this goes far beyond just you're
for sure.
enhancing your overall social awareness and ability
Mm.
to diffuse things when called upon and when necessary. It really works both ways. Like if you had just said that to me and we had words and you said that to me, this applies to anything. I would feel like genuinely better about it. I'd be like
Yeah.
that I feel it.
I think it's just about seeing the other person as like they're on the same team as me. They're not the enemy. Like it's not because a lot of guys take rejection. Like if a girl says, "No, I have a boyfriend," or "I'm not interested," like "No,
Hmm.
thank you," they'll take that very personally. And sometimes they'll even get to a point where they go, "Man, all these women keep blowing me out. Why are they doing this to me? Like this isn't fair. Women should respect guys and be nicer to them." They start seeing her as like the enemy, like the thing that's stopping him from having a good sex life. And when you go into it with that energy, yeah, like man, first of all, you're gonna get blown out more because you're bringing that fucking aggressive, like enemy energy. But
Hmm.
then if anything ever does happen, like she ever says, I'm not interested, because you have that like negative energy or you're seeing her as the enemy, yeah, you won't de escalate it. You'll just be like, fuck you, bitch. And then she'll be like, fuck you. And it just like, it
Yeah.
climbs and climbs and climbs. So I think the first step has got to be you got to see women as like, they're on your fucking team.
Yeah.
Like, they're not your enemy, especially if you're going to try and have sex with them. It's like, do you really want to have sex with the enemy? What does that say about you? That's like a weird fucking thing to get into. So, yeah,
That's a
women
great
are on
point.
your fucking team.
And there's someone right now in the comments or whoever's listening to this who could possibly vouch and say, hey, listen, I've been through situations where no, I could attest to I've pulled girls in this angry state of mind because I've generally, for the most part, I've actually dealt with anger throughout my years, and I don't know if I fully
I did
conquered
too
it.
in the early couple of years too.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell
So
yeah. I
anger
was
is
very
something
angry.
in which you can, again, you can always say as an excuse or justify your actions and say, listen, I was still getting laid and I'm an angry dude to begin with. So,
So
and I was
therefore, I
using that
should
for,
keep it
yeah,
up.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. The point is to really get beyond that shit too. Like just because you're
yeah.
getting laid, it doesn't matter. If you're an angry dude inside, it's not, you could still be getting results, but yet, there's a
How can
better
you
way.
enjoy them? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
It's just not as. I always felt something weird because I went through like an angry phase. I did for like a couple of years. I literally saw women as the enemy. I would call them like bitches. I'd be like, oh, I
mhm,
met a couple of bitches tonight. I was, and it was coming from like a very dark place where I was like pissed off at them. Like I didn't fucking respect them. I didn't like them. If they were ever nice to me, I would like not be nice back to them. I would not say like, oh, I appreciate how sweet you are. I'd never say thank you for that shit. And
Yeah.
I had a very dark energy. And after a while, man, I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, why is my penis entering the person that I think is the enemy? Like, shouldn't my dick only go to people that I like? Is my dick not worth a little bit more than just like sticking it in the enemy? Like, what the fuck am I doing here? And so at some point I had to ask myself, like, yo, are women actually the enemy? And
Yeah.
I started talking to them. I just started, and what I mean by that is like, I started asking them actual questions about themselves instead of doing kind of like the pickup stuff or the red pill stuff. I would actually just ask them about themselves. I'd be like, yo, hey, what's your life like? Or I'd
Huh.
be like, what's it like being a woman? Like, literally tell me what it's like being a woman. What are some challenges that you face as a woman? What is your biggest fucking insecurity? Like, and I just got to know women on a deeper level.
Right.
And it sounds so fucking insane, but this is how like angry I was. I had this realization one day where I was like, oh, women are just humans. Women are just people. And that sounds
Mhm.
insane, but like that was a huge fucking realization for me. I was like, wait, women are pretty much the same as me. They might have different needs and wants and shit, but like that's still a human. And that was such a big fucking revelation for me. Because before that, yeah, dude, I just saw women as like this weird thing, like this alien species that you had to try and figure out. And it's like, they're not that fucking complicated, man. Like, just
Huh.
invite her back to your place. Do you want to come back to my place and fool around? She'll say yes or no. You don't need some like weird fucking code or something to figure out.
Yeah, I hear you. Because there's like a real thing, such as like makeup sex, for example. Like my first couple of relationships were, fighting drama, and then we would have crazy sex afterwards. Or like there was a lot of anger and animosity towards this person that you're saying is my girlfriend, or you're spending all this time investing in, and then
Yeah.
we're glorifying makeup sex. Oh, that's like a
Yeah,
known thing,
dude.
bro. What do you mean
Dude,
makeup
yeah.
sex? Like fighting and then having sex? Like that is a
Dude,
known thing.
we brought a rule into our relationship, like Imogen and I, we don't have makeup sex.
Right, makeup sex.
Cause it's like, that's just going to encourage us. That's rewarding us for having an argument.
Yeah,
Like, why don't we
yeah.
just not have the argument in the first place? We can just be more rational about it or take some space from each other and think about it a bit. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a real thing, bro. Like I really think
Yeah.
it's a real thing. So yeah, I bet you there's a lot of and people that's a well-known term. So people are
Yeah.
dealing with that throughout like
Bro,
the
it's in
world.
movies and TV shows, and they glorify it. You're right. They're
Yeah,
like,
that is
oh, wow, the
glorified.
sex is more passionate after a big fight. Bro, it's probably like 50% of movies. They'll have an
Yeah.
argument, and then they'll just make up and they'll fuck each other's brains out, and they'll go, like, yeah, I love you. I knew I loved you. And it's like,
Yeah.
did you not love them before when you were arguing with them? Like, what the fuck is this? You got to patch it up all the time. You're basically telling yourself that the relationship is constantly fucked and you have to
Yeah.
constantly fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a big part of this. You're more along the lines teaching at the end of the day. Like I've heard you say numerous times, this is more of like a reward or like some sort of a reward. It's in addition to, basically
Yeah.
transforming your life as a man. And the sex is more of like cherry on the top. It's like icing on the cake. It's a
That came from
reward.
Good Looking Loser, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So some
Yeah.
of his articles really he put a lot of thought and time and experience
Oh, yeah.
into that site. So
Yeah. Very
I mean,
wise guy.
I've gone back to some of those articles myself. I find them useful for sure.
Yeah.
Like things that he would recently, um, he regrets things he did in his 20s or something like that, that he would have rather done. And it was actually what we were just discussing about, making his image more edgy or went ahead and pulled the trigger on certain things, piercings and tattoos, as opposed to waiting later on in his life and stuff like that. But yes, it's a great site, dude.
I agree. I agree. Sisyphus says, judging by your latest podcast with Chris, which was that interview you did, would have been a couple of months ago now, you
Yeah.
seem to have become a more spiritual type of person and less concerned with external success. So, my question is, how do you maintain the drive to push forward while at the same time avoiding the trap of hedonism?
Avoiding
That's a
the
deep
trap.
question.
Yeah, that's a deep question.
Jesus.
Avoiding the trap of hedonism. What is the definition of that?
Like, it's a word that gets used all the fucking time, man. Basically, when all you care about is pleasure.
Right.
So maybe you could say like sex addiction is like a type of hedonism. It's like all I care about is sex. I don't care if anyone gets hurt. I don't care. Yeah, hedonism is like that, where you don't really care about anything except for your own pleasure and you don't care about other people if they might get hurt or something.
Right. Now, this may be deep too if he wants to take the spiritual angle. I've gone to many meditation retreats and stuff, and one of the things that they preach a lot at these places is that they say the words anicca, anatta, dukkha, which means and it's in some Pali language in Buddha, which means change, um, no self, and suffering, or something like that. Where it's selfless. If there's always change, like they're saying that you're always in a state of change anyway. So
Hmm. Hmm.
you're not attached to a particular self to begin with, or something along those lines. But that the fact that we're always changing, like it's all change at the end of the day. It's all change. Like even if you even now as I say, oh, I'm an alcoholic or something now, but like I could have a glass of wine and realize it's still just it's just part of my being, where I'm always changing. I'm not a alcohol, like you're once you start to label, I guess, and say like I'm an
That's
alcoholic.
why you don't like labels, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, change at the end of the day, all this stuff is in change. I won't say it's like all complete vanity, but if you realize your true self to some extent, and see that your endeavors, whatever they are, whether they're temporal needs, or some sort of food and drinking. I don't know where he's trying to take that. You avoid the traps and pitfalls of
I
just
guess maybe like we can talk
overindulging.
about like,
Yeah,
yeah,
overindulging,
overindulging addiction.
addictions, and making it all the self pleasurable type of
Yep.
things. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think you'd easily avoid that though if you just go into it with what we said before, which is like having that positive intention, you know what I mean? Of like, if it's dating, you just go in with the intention of every woman that I date, I just want to leave them a little bit better than I found them.
sure.
Or if it's money, it's like, okay, I'm not going to use people for money. What that would look like is lying. Like I'm not going to lie. I'm not going
Hmm.
to literally sell them something that I can't give them. I'm going to make sure I give them as much value as I can. I'm going to try and change their fucking life. I'm going to care about them. If they're not happy with my coaching or my product or whatever, I'll
Yeah,
fix it. I'll find a way to make them happy. There's
sure.
so many ways you can make sure that you're not like falling into the trap of like just overindulgence in pleasure and being selfish. Just the answer is like give a shit about other people. It's
And
kind
at
of a
the end
pretty
of
simple answer.
and at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff is not sustainable. Like you may have a short shelf life.
Yeah.
Like I think
Yeah.
Scotty, Scotty back then, they just did not. He was already. You just get burnt out, or you see musicians go, "What happened to that guy?" And he'll share his story and say, "I wasn't sustainable. The life I was living. It was such an extreme pleasure, 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 addiction to like it's
Especially if
just
you're doing it to use other people.
yeah,
Like, because
yeah,
people
for
will
sure.
fight you on that.
Yeah,
Like, if you go around manipulating women or lying to them to have sex, eventually you meet someone who's like, well, you'll meet a lot of people who are like, this isn't okay. I'm going to cockblock you. I'm going to stop you. Like, I don't like what you're doing. If you
yeah.
get big enough, like people will fucking shut you down. Like Roosh V is a really good example. He's an old pickup artist.
Hmm.
Um, the guys over at a company called RSD, which is just a bunch of other pickup artists, they got shut down. Like entire countries banned them and said, "You can't
Really?
come to our country."
Oh
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
if you're pushing stuff that is a little bit more forceful, it depends how you define it, and we can get into arguments over what they were actually saying and shit. That doesn't matter. But the
Yeah.
point is, if you're chasing just hedonism and it's not clear that you're trying to also make other people's lives better in the process, then yeah, people will try and shut you down. But if you make it your mission, look, I'm going to chase my external success. I'm going to chase my goals, but I'm going to bring a bunch of people along with me. My mission is to help them as well. Like, I want them to fuck. I'm not just doing this to be selfish for myself. People will get behind you and say, like, fuck yeah, this guy's got a mission. He's building a community. He has a plan. He's trying to help me. I'm going to fucking help him. Like, if he succeeds, then
Yep.
he will reach his hand down and pull me up as well. I want him to fucking succeed because he'll help me. So
Yeah.
I think more than anything, it's just I think this question is sort of assuming that if you're obsessed with your goals and external success, that
Hmm.
must mean that you'll eventually become selfish or you'll just only care about pleasure. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be like that. Just know why you're doing this shit. You're doing this shit to make the world a little bit better. You're doing this shit to improve yourself. You're not just going out to get a lot of pussy or to make a lot of money. You're doing that because that means that you have to become a better man. like in order to do that. Like you said
Yeah,
before, it's like the self improvement comes first. That's the main focus, and then money, women, fame, whatever else. Like that's just kind of a side effect. It's like a nice bonus.
yeah, it is. And like you mentioned, the brotherhood aspect of it too. Well, the
Yeah.
community doing it with somebody or others is really helpful as well.
Mm.
When yes, you will certainly feel like the sense of loneliness or selfishness if you're just totally out, and you will get burnt out.
Yeah.
And I've been down those, I
Yeah.
guess, rabbit holes too.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it with others and helping others along the way, I know it sounds kind of cliche, like just, yeah, help others do good work. But sometimes it is that simple. If you're doing it with a partner or somebody who's like-minded, since the dawn of time, I feel like we've been trying to connect with one another, uh, um, not always for a good reason, but I think because a lot of that stuff is masked by the fact that we're just together and we're bonding, and we just, my recent coaching, we just, like, if we didn't get our end result, we still spread good vibes throughout the city of Charleston,
Yeah.
and we really would, because we put it all on the table. We're bearing our soul out there. We're already separating ourselves from most men who aren't, who haven't even given themselves the permission to approach a girl who they think is attractive and who might be interested. You're also doing that woman a disservice by not even,
Yep.
reaching out to her. You're keeping all of that stuff to yourself. So we're basically just giving ourselves permission, and if we don't get our end result, we still, at the end of the day, we raised our social awareness. We were kind. We were generous to those along our path prior to going out.
Mm.
We're going to run into people, and we're not just like, you know, totally narrow minded. We are also aware of our surroundings, or we might have to diffuse a fight. We might have to do this. We might have to step in. We are now responsible for, wherever we
Mm.
go to a certain extent. You know,
Responsibility is a good word for it, man. Maybe that's the fucking answer. Maybe you just stumbled upon the answer. Like how do you go for external success but not fall into that trap of hedonism? Just have responsibility. Responsibility for your surroundings, as you said, for the people around you, for the
sure.
positive vibes that you put out into the world. Yeah, maybe it's just responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, because I certainly would get burnt out after a while. Like, I've gone down those rabbit holes and they just get burnt out. It's hard to maintain. They are not really sustainable. So yeah,
Mm.
you just throughout, exhaustion will overtake you, or others that care about you will interject or
We'll try and
intercede. But
stop you.
yeah,
Yeah.
will be an intervention if they see you're really in bad shape and you're just plowing through, and you need, like, if you need to go to a rehab, or, like, there's just it's bound to fail. Something's bound to happen, and I don't think it's really sustainable. So you're automatically, if you've been around for a while and have had success in this industry or whatever industry you're in, you've found some balance. Like, if you hit that 10-year mark, like I just congratulated Chris for, 10-year anniversary of Happy Hippo, whatever that is. That's anytime you've sustained a business for that long, you deserve some sort of pat on the back, because it's not just like, it's hard to stay relevant or in business, really.
There has to be like a deeper purpose to it, yeah.
Sure.
Like a deeper mission, yeah. Yeah, it can't just be like hedonism or it can't be shallow. I guess we're talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mindset asks Scotty has done coaching in the past and he's starting it back up again. Now, who or what was the most difficult client or situation you've had, and how were you able to help him overcome his problems? So, did you have any like really challenging clients or situations?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, definitely challenging situations, but a lot of guys actually ended up being regulars, guys who have, it started at the end where I wasn't getting as many new people, and a lot of people were repeat guys, and we would just meet, bi-weekly and stuff like that. So it became actually fairly easy. We're always, of course, have new challenges and stuff like that, but it was, I mean, it's not that enjoyable for me when I'm really, like, struggling to figure why this guy out. I don't have an answer. Sometimes I'm bound to want to give this guy an answer, and I can't supply that for him. I've already turned money down where I didn't feel like I could really.
Yeah.
I just go seek out other help because I don't feel like I could figure this one out. This is over my pay grade. There's certain things that I just have to bow out and say, maybe this is something else that I can't put my thumb on. I can't seem to get you to where you want to be. Things are things were, you have to be willing, you have to be humble enough, number one, to see that, and
Yeah.
not just say, well, I could fix everything, or every case is kind of different. It really is. Each one is a new experience. We may have some similar issues, but each guy is really like its own unique like star, and he's got his own set of issues and stuff like that. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But other than me actually returning down particular people after meeting them on, for a few times and not coming to some sort of agreement that we can work together and make this happen and get the results you're looking for. Yeah, every one that I do take on brings about its own set of obstacles and challenges, but there's an aspect of fulfillment and enjoyment and satisfaction that comes with those, people that typically we kick it off and it goes well. They're
Mm.
that's with the hard work. When you do a painting or some sort of work, there's a level of satisfaction and an enjoyment in it. When cases you're in over your head, it is not enjoyable anymore. You start to lose that joy aspect. That satisfaction aspect is gone because maybe
Mm.
you took on something that you're really not. It's beyond you. And I've been in situations like that, and I've been let go by other pickup companies that actually brought me on when I first got started, and I was in over my head with a lot of the people
Mm.
that they had me run workshops and things like that. I just was in over my head. I was a young kid, and I didn't. It wasn't even enjoyable at some point. So you'll know when you're really helping and bringing a certain value to the table that you could contribute to this guy's life and get him at least a better life and get the
Yeah, I
results
think
that he's
it's
seeking.
that's all you're ever really trying to do is just help people, and if you can't help someone, then you can't
Hmm.
help them. Crisis Overcomer says, "Does Scotty have any big no-nos when it comes to approaching, such as not approaching a receptionist at the gym or something like that?" Like, and I think what he means is like personally. Like,
Hmm.
you're not saying no guy should hit on a girl at the gym, but you're saying like to you personally, do you have any places where you just don't hit on women?
Huh. Um, Well, if it takes me this while to think about it, I probably not really. Everything's open. It's everything's wide open,
Yeah,
really.
I can't
Yeah,
think of any places I wouldn't. Like,
yeah,
there'd be places where I wouldn't go crazy, like in the gym. I've only ever hit on two chicks in the gym because for me, I'm just there to work out. I don't want to be thinking about two different things at once, but it's still not a no-no for me. It's just like
yeah,
I'm not interested in it as much. So,
yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
There's some. I've had like hunting grounds that I really, that I'm a
Yeah,
fan
yeah,
of
of
and stuff, and
course.
you find your niche and then you go to. But yeah, nothing.
Okay, so maybe you can answer the question of like, where are there places where you just haven't ended up doing a lot of
A
approaches?
lot of approaches or lays even from like I don't know. Let's see. I guess when I was really in recovery, I did not sleep with maybe two women, actually. Take that back. I did sleep with two women in recovery when you really were like, you're supposed to do the full year of like sobriety, of celibacy type of thing. And um, so I ended up actually sleeping with two girls in recovery as well. But that really is not, I'm not too fond. That wouldn't be like one of my go tos to go make that a part of your whole thing to try to scoop. And a lot of guys
That
think
might
that
be
that
the
was
only
cool.
no-no then for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing it anyway because when you spend so much time in the rooms, after a while, yeah, you start going to meetings with girls, and you just start to get. It actually is for a lot of guys vouched by it, and that's their only stream. You've also
Mm,
talked to people that's their only stream of even networking and dating women from
mm.
the meetings and stuff like that. So but you're right. The gym is definitely one of them. I haven't. That's not a big thing. Pitting on girls in the gym, really. But no, no, no real indefinite no nos that come to mind for sure.
Yeah, I
Maybe
wouldn't have
maybe
any no.
church or something like that. There was
Funeral?
or yeah, funeral churches and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like the movie The Wedding Crashers. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, Yeah, funerals are like that was his new big thing, to go to funerals or where else? I guess a church type of setting. If you belong to some religious group or something, it might be a big no no for certain guys not to mess
Yeah,
around there. Yeah,
I would say maybe even the workplace, depending on where you are. I would never tell a guy like you can't do it, but I personally, when I've gone to workplaces, I haven't. There's only one exception, one girl I've ever slept with that I worked with, and that was when I was young. I was only like 19. So for
okay.
me, like workplaces, I don't just because of the politics and shit. You know what I mean? But
That's fair.
yeah, yeah,
There's certain things that we really have it. Yeah, the politics and losing your job potentially or getting kicked out of a gym. There's certain areas that are challenging or very difficult to even do to begin with. So you may not be drawn to wanting to do it. It shouldn't totally throw you off completely, but like um yeah, you don't
you don't
it, do-
need to do it there.
yeah, you don't need to say
Yeah,
no. It's completely off the table.
yeah, and I think when you get to a point where you're pretty happy with your sex and your dating life anyway, you don't feel like you have to talk to every single woman that you see. Like you lose at the start. You have this fear of like, if I ever don't talk to a woman, it's because I'm a pussy. Like I
Yeah.
need to talk to every possible woman that I ever see, and if I ever don't, there's something wrong with me. But
Hmm.
after a while, you're just like, I know how to have sex. Like, why do I? I don't need to
Hmm.
talk to every single woman. I'm cool. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point too. Yeah, for sure.
second question: were there any girls that made you want to be monogamous and stop sleeping around? If so, what qualities did those women have?
Was there any woman that wanted to be monogamous? And I said,
Wanted you like you thought about being monogamous with her because she was like, I don't know, really interesting or really cool or whatever.
and what were her qualities?
Yeah.
I think we hit on this on our last podcast. There were certain things that I was actually like seeing this girl, and she was kind of very, kind of like as we went along checking a lot of the boxes, and the boxes would just be really, staying out of your like. I think she should stay out of your work, like what you do, your job and shit like that. Really, to a certain extent, if she's,
Hmm.
you know, I kind of view a woman as like I guess kind of still old fashioned in the sense that like she should just support you along the way, and she's there for that type of support. Really,
Like the
not
cheerleader relationship.
yeah, yeah, more of
There's
just
this
like
dude.
yeah. I mean, I just had to recently. I thought it was going well with this one girl where she was either going to be a part of the rotation for a while or something, but I actually slammed the phone on her. She was just I thought out of pocket for saying you're not working hard enough or not maximizing your time enough when it comes to work. You should be doing this better. You should be doing that better. And I was like, I didn't even see it really coming, and I was thrown off by it, and I was like,
As in,
whoa,
wait. She said all that to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was like that was a big red flag. And then there was a few more red flags, and eventually just I'm not going to deal with it. You don't have to, and you don't have to deal with it. No one needs to deal with that. No one needs to stay in those types of relationships or where she's trying to be some sort of boss. And she did. She was a teacher, so maybe she felt like in previous relationships she could get away with that type of dialogue
Yeah, man.
with
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just. And then I called her out on it. Because I wanted to see. She was wondering why I took a step back or wasn't really as receptive after that. Of course, and she was like. I explained to her completely, and well, I was coming from a place of tough love. I just thought it was tough love. I'm like, well, you know, I don't think it's, I don't think it was necessary. I don't, I don't think we're really compatible if that's your idea of tough love. If that's what you think is, you're trying to normalize what you think is tough love, and that was your place to do something like that. I don't think it was necessary, and I think we should go our separate ways type of thing. And it's just, I didn't even need to say we need to go our separate ways. It just naturally happened. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't owe a woman an apology or an explanation, really, if you're not anything, if that's not your wife or something where you need to deal with legal ramifications. You don't owe her an explanation, really. If she asks, be happily give her to her. Why? And she'll know what's going on. If she rubbed you the wrong way, it just was like a pattern that you started to see with certain red flags that she's some sort of bossy or has the audacity to to say something like that? Where on what basis is that coming from? Are you just trying to be boss someone or set a tone of the relationship that's far beyond the issue at hand here? It doesn't matter then. It will continue to pop up in different areas despite just under, you know, you and what you do for a living. Her trying to impose her dominance as like some form of alpha of the relationship. That's the way I kind of see it. Like, you know, you're not doing this enough. You should be doing better with that. Like, nah, I mean, you do not have to tolerate that.
Yeah, that's always been, that would be a huge deal breaker for me, by the way. That would be the, and I don't know the full circumstances, obviously, but like
Right.
somebody telling me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I am just, I was always that kid in high school and before that who, as soon as the teacher said you had to do something, I'd be like, well, I'm going to do the opposite now. So you shouldn't
Yeah.
have told me that. I'm going to do the opposite. I've just always been that person. Like,
Yeah.
I've just always been the person that's like, don't fucking tell me what to do. Or you're allowed to tell me what to do. I'm not going to do it unless I want to.
Yeah. It was a big deal breaker. It was
Yeah.
like it was just out of pocket for me, and I had a little. And as you learn the whole thing, like you learn more about yourself and how you're when you're confronted with these things. You're always learning about like how will you deal with it if you've never dealt with it, and then you're on the spot, and what are you going to do next? What's your next move? Like, you know, you're confronted with certain things, and you're demanded to come up with something rather quickly. Like I told her straight up, I would rather if I was homeless, if I chose to be homeless, if you want to support me, that's you could support me with that. It doesn't shouldn't you don't have to tell me what the fucking I'm not maximizing my time at work. If I don't want to fucking work another day in my life, I want to stop and you want to support me. You're like I guess I am old fashioned. Like you're ride or die with me to the whatever I decide to do and support that and still be with
Yeah.
me, love me unconditionally, kind of to with whatever I decide to do. Like I think you're out of place for trying to like tell me what I'm doing wrong or not maximizing my time or doing better with work or could be doing more work. Like, I didn't need to hear that, man. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, you're like a hippie at heart. You're like, you let me do my thing, you do your thing.
Yeah.
Fucking namaste, motherfucker,
Yeah.
and
Like, please.
let me do my shit. You do your shit. I'll support your shit. You support my shit. Cool. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's me too. I could not stand. My girlfriend Imogen is the last person on the planet who would ever tell me that I have to do something or should do. She's just that's just not her.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a reason why I have committed to her. There's a reason why we've been together for 5 years. That's a huge part of it. It's like, no, you do what you want to do, and I'll support that. So
That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm with that. I'm totally with that.
I don't think we answered the question though.
But
The
yeah,
question was
that's
like,
it's
are there
just
any girls that
yeah, it's the
made you want to
denial
be
of that. Yeah,
monogamous?
made you want to be with them is what you said. If they're not giving you that vibe, that sort of
Okay,
bossy
okay,
or
yeah,
dominating vibe, if
yeah,
that is not there, you're gonna probably have the flip side of that, which is someone like you said, like your girl, who's very much supportive despite her, you know, whatever situation you're in. Really, she's there as a very good support. You know, as long
so
whatever you're
chill.
involved. Yeah,
Yeah.
way kind of chill, peace. You know, where I'm
Mm.
here to support and be with you no matter what. We've had a long day at the office or not a long day of life. You're just going through a tough time. You're there for a hug or whatever to be with and to support you along the way. You know,
Yeah. Amen.
amen.
Manly Cockfellow says Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, I love that name too. Says Wilt Chamberlain said this during an interview. Having 1,000 different ladies is pretty cool. I've learned that in my life. But I have also found out that having one woman 1,000 different times is more satisfying. So he said he's curious to hear what you have to say about this and what I have to say. Like 1,000 women versus one woman 1,000 times.
um,
I would say, can't you have both? Like,
yeah, I was just gonna say that, dude. I was gonna say
yeah,
why not both? And I'm sure Wilt had both too. Like, yeah,
yeah.
why not both? You could somehow do both.
I understand the point though. I think the point is like, at some point you go a little deeper, and it sounds like you already kind of do that. Like, as much as you might have had a lot of sex, you talk all the time about spirituality and connecting and getting to know a woman, being empathetic, all of that. You don't strike me as the person who's just going out to sleep with 1,000 women, and each time he gets his little like notepad out, his clipboard, and he goes like, tick, one more, or another one, or another notch. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you never really struck me as that person. So
I did for
Yeah,
the mere sense of when I first started, just to like do the 30 in a year or milestones. When I first started working
I
with a
did too.
coach at
Yeah,
the very
yeah.
early stages, we made it a point to go over certain goals of what would you like, and as a goal, you want to really get that on paper. I eventually got away with it, and there was actually a part of like your job too to like document some of these things too, and in which otherwise I probably wouldn't have. I don't know how much I would have done that if I didn't feel like it was also, my duty to kind of pass along uh, some of these lays and these stories to really get into the nitty gritty of how I did it, how I pulled it off, and break down the stories. So
Hmm.
once it's documented, yeah, you're kind of that douchebag guy doing that, but like in the same breath, yeah, I see what you mean. I definitely, just because I'm writing and documenting, there's a way to kind of separate the two, where it doesn't mean that you're excluded from deep sex
Yeah,
with a woman. You know what I mean? You could still document things,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. We're basically both agreeing you can have both. Like it doesn't.
yeah, you could
Yeah,
definitely have both.
yeah. I guess to answer the question in a different way, it's like, what are the differences between just having a lot of sex with different women versus having sex with one woman a lot of times? Obviously, with one person, if you go a lot of times, you get to know them a lot better. You get to know their body. You really, really, really get to know like the depths of their. If we're just talking about sex, you get to
Yeah.
know the depths of their like sexuality and their kinks and maybe shit that they wouldn't tell you. Like if you've only slept with them a couple of times,
Hmm.
you get to know them as a human being. Obviously, you get to learn more about vulnerability and being honest and testing out some of the shit that I had in my head. Like I had ideas in my head of you can never be honest with a woman. You can never be vulnerable. You can never tell her like, yo, I had a fucking rough day today. Can you give me a massage? Like
Yeah.
I thought you could never say that shit. I thought you just had to be this like fucking rock, like this perfect alpha male 100% of the time. And she's like, how's your week? And you're like, don't you worry your pretty little head about it. I thought that you just had to be like that all the time.
Yeah.
So exploring with one woman means you can test that out and say like what happens if I'm a bit more of a human being rather than this like character.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more vulnerable. Anything I missed there that you'd say
No, I
comes
think
from sleeping with a woman more?
for sure, dude. Yeah, you start to a lot of these things would definitely build also for me personally out like a sense of attachment with this woman. There's a thin line between like developing like such a deep. Yeah, you're putting it out. You're really like putting it out there where you're allowing where you're allowing that to even take place. You don't give a fuck really
Mm.
about the consequences down the road of if something happened. You like you said, you are making yourself so vulnerable to this woman, as is she, where she's like so vulnerable with you to the point in which she's, you know, like almost allowing herself to even experience that orgasm, or vice versa. I've gotten
Mm.
nervous in the past and wasn't even able to orgasm, and the girl's kind of like soothing you and just saying, come on, relax, you can let it go. So there's a deeper connection where you're allowing that
Yep.
to even take place. Some of these girls will
Trust.
feel the trust, feel so comfortable with they'll have like their first orgasm with you and stuff like that, and that's a awesome experience.
Dude, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good looking loser talked about that, where he's like, yo, like, hey, like lots of girls just can't orgasm the first few times you've seen that. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
you've seen them. When I first read that, I was like, nah, Chris probably just isn't doing it right. I'll buy some sex toys. I'll see. Like, no, dude, he's absolutely correct. Like, and you know it as well. So many women, it's like the first time you sleep with them, they're not going to orgasm. If you have the best vibrators and toys and shit, it doesn't matter. She's just in her head. She doesn't fucking trust you yet. Like she doesn't feel like
Yeah.
she can let go. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say you definitely get like a
Yeah.
deeper sexuality as well. The more you see someone, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that's black and white. Like some of the times one of the first or two times, or like fuck sessions that you broke the ice with the girl, like they were like out of this world, mind blowing, because they're
Oh
also
sure,
like,
yeah, yeah.
wow, I'm like with this stranger and I'm vulnerable. I'm just like, it's
Mm.
the knight in shining armor. This guy is like the man, like crazy orgasm. Like the first go around, seriously, have been like just an explosion sometimes. Yeah, the first go around could be like one of the most impactful ones too. You know,
Sure, sure.
and you could leave a mark and have that woman now for life, and things could get even deeper and better from there.
Mm.
But like, you've hit a pretty high ceiling and a high mark like your first swing at it. So that's pretty cool too. That's very important.
Yeah. Maybe one final thing we can say is like, you know how we said, why don't you have both? Let's think about what would happen. Maybe we can do it like this. What would happen if you only had one or the other? So if you only had 1,000 different ladies
Mm-hmm.
and you never went deep with any of them, for me
Mm-hmm.
that would be. I think I could enjoy it, but I think I'd feel like something was missing. I'd be like, why did I never go deeper with any of them? I don't even think I could do it. I think I would just naturally go deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
if you think about the,
I
I
agree
was
with
going to
you,
say,
man.
if you think about the opposite, could you have just one woman in your entire life? I personally, for me, it's like, no, that's just not me. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know that I would be able to. Okay, I do know. I wouldn't have committed to that woman. I wouldn't have. I cheated on my first girlfriend. Like, I've
Yeah.
talked about that in articles because it's just like something's missing. Like, I can't settle down with the first person that showed me any interest because, and we were so not compatible. And that's kind of the point. So,
That's
yeah,
a
I think
great
somewhere
point.
in the middle is probably the answer.
Yeah,
Like
that's a
get a bit
great
of
point.
sexual experience and then settle down with someone if you want to, or don't even settle down. Like you can do what I'm doing, where you're settling down, but you're still having sex with women together, or you can do what you're doing, and it's like I'm just gonna go out there and see what happens. Like you don't, I don't think you
Yeah.
have to have a fucking. I think people try and
It's good to
for
hear these
pressure.
stories. It's good to hear these stories and what other people are having success with and not having success with. And I think that's a big part of like even having some sort of brotherhood or commitment. You just listen to other
Yeah.
people. You just listen.
Hmm.
You don't have to come up with some, conclusion right off the bat. And you might just want to go with the flow, but it's like to see
Hmm.
what's possible, what's not possible. Oh wow, that's cool, man. Like some of the stuff that you're even telling me about is like, wow, I don't meet a lot of Andes on a daily basis. So you're doing stuff that is really put yourself in a position to help other guys and listen to your perspective and how you easily, how you not easily, but you can have success doing what
Hmm.
you're doing with hard work and whatever it takes.
Hmm. Another question from Manly Cockfellow. What 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 weight, body fat percentage, and physique level do you feel like you've had the most sexual success at? I guess you can just say like how much muscle, like what size.
That's a good question. What size? What size? What size I have the most
Super
success at?
big, super
Yeah,
lean, somewhere in the middle.
somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. Absolutely. Because when I was super super lean, I was so into the bodybuilding thing and competing that I was just holding down one girlfriend and sleeping with a couple girls here and there, but I was so focused on the bodybuilding thing to maintain that level of elite,
Yeah,
you know, leanness. So yeah, somewhere in between. I think I was probably like 215 with a pretty low percentage of body fat. I was looking pretty good, but not so, on stage ready type of stuff. So yeah,
yeah,
somewhere in between. And all that shit goes long, mild, man. I'm an absolute proponent in maximizing your looks to the best of your ability. You will get girls noticing you or opening you because in your heart what you've been doing. So then you're putting that out there.
yep.
It's you're letting the world know that, and they're seeing
Hmm.
that. When I put a lot of time into my teeth or changing my teeth braces and the teeth whitening, and I would get tons and tons of compliments and girls noticing that when I was out there and making life so much easier, making approaching so much easier for me. Like and it's something that you show that care about and to change about yourself. That you could have changed and you like
Yeah,
get rewarded for it.
it's that you're respecting yourself enough to do that shit. You're saying I deserve to look good, and therefore I deserve to have women be nice to me. I deserve to have sex. I deserve to make money. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
you're putting those vibes out there, like you said, and then people respect you. Women like you. They flock to you. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I was in the city, for example, real quick today, like in downtown St. Augustine area, and there was some homeless people, bums, and there's a guy with like his pants off and shit coming down his leg, like there's something to be said if you just don't give a fuck about you don't give a fuck about what you look like, and that guy's not having success with women. I could guarantee you that. So I mean, there's this. I know I'm giving an extreme example, and there's somewhere in between, but the more you pay attention to that, change your teeth or you put some effort into maximizing your looks, what the looks that were given to you, you make your face go from like a 5 or 6, but now with some little bit of adjustments, you can go to like a 7 or 8.
Hmm.
You're elevating yourself, and you know the effort that you put in, and then the other girls will be aware of that as well. Like just little even accessories. I was never big in like certain accessories, but I'm open to listening. Like I said, I'm more of a guy to even pay for a fashion expert if I had to. I've just been fortunate enough to be around guys who are really into that type of stuff. Let them do that, and I'll help with get the girls. Just dress me,
Sure.
help me out with the fashion. I'll help with, getting you the courage to walk up to women and, get the girl you want. So there's got to be guys have specialties, and that's what I plan on
Yeah.
doing. Certain guys are really good at certain things, and if you're able, this guy here is really good at pulling off threesomes and doing that like all the time, dude. I want that guy to speak at my shop or my
Hmm.
program. You know what I mean? So each
Yeah.
guy's got certain strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. That's why you said it's a community. You listen to each other. Yeah. Yeah. TDan187 says, "Does Scotty is life just as good and fulfilling now compared to like like 7 or 8 or 9 years ago, or do you secretly long for the glory days?"
These are some good questions, man. Are you sure you didn't come up with these? Yeah, these are
No,
good
these
questions.
dude
Are these
guys
straight
in
from your
this
your
community ask
yeah,
like fucking deep questions, man.
yeah, your
Like,
guys are good, man. I just jumped on Andy's forum, by the way, which is it's a good place to be, and it's a good community. Like these guys ask good questions and serious questions,
yeah.
like well thought out questions. So hats off to y'all. So, um, do I glorify the old days of
Mm,
Scotty? Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of romanticizing your past a little bit and saying that
mm-hmm.
was fucking awesome, that was wild, so exciting, so crazy. But you know, God willing, we have the ability to really make it better, or do we can somehow we could take that we love and cherish or think was amazing about the past and modify it to some extent and make continue to roll with it and say, well, something went wrong here. It burnt out, or I could have done that better, or making corrections, whether you're a businessman or something, you're always making some form of corrections. So, I don't get too caught up in it. I don't make sure I get too
Mm.
wrapped up in glorification because then you're really not living or doing anything now.
You're
What are you
not
doing?
here, yeah.
Yeah,
You're
you're
not in
not
the
doing it
present,
now.
yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
time and place for that, and that's cool, especially if you're bringing some of that, with you into the past, especially on your new mission in life. Your new mission can be, Scotty 2.0, where he's doing that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but it's only just a smarter version. You're not getting locked up.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many bad things that got cut that cut me short of continuing with that you don't need that could be removed from that altogether. Yeah, I get pushing
Yeah.
the limits, and I get that, but it was like to a certain extent. I really thought I was like invincible or above the law or something like that. So, where
Back
I
on
would,
those days, this is a question that comes up all the time, man. Like, do you feel like you pushed things too far back then? Do you feel like you were too aggressive, if that's the right word? Do you feel like you were too sexual? Do you feel like you pushed things a bit too far?
yeah, not or just not learn, not under the drugs didn't make things worse, or alcohol, absolutely not. So my calibration skills obviously were skewed, and at times you were so addicted to the high or whatever that yeah you would lose your ability. It didn't make me better at sleeping up and picking up women at all. Like it did not. And calibrating a learning of where you are and not realizing that there's consequences to what you're doing in a store right now. This is not appropriate. Your calibration
Yeah, like
skills,
you're in some store
yeah, you're in some
really being
store and you're
sexual, like,
and you're not all there. You were using or whatever. Like your calibration skills now suck, and you don't. And you also think you're invincible. Like, and you're not going to get in trouble. There's not going to be consequences. You're not that far ahead of yourself. We have the awareness to not to prevent those problems from happening. We just there's a lot of problems that could be prevented, especially if you're not using drugs or any sort of substances, man. That could bring people down really quickly. I could see so many
sure.
people get brought down quickly from it. Like to even start our night, there was clients that needed to take a shot right from Jump Street, right when we would meet at in the subway down in Manhattan. We would meet and he would have to take a shot back like that. Fine, I'm not going to tell you. I respect you. I'll do the best with what I can, but like he has to take a shot to even start his night. So, and I was
Yeah, do
like
you think
that.
that's because they were putting pressure on themselves and maybe you did too to like hit those amazing heights? Like you have to just be this like guy who's always on. You have to just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, like perform. We think it's performance enhancing, but in fact, you start to realize sooner or later that you're who am I? You start to forget, like,
Mm.
yeah, there's this identity like crisis, like who am I with the drugs, without the drugs, this falsified sense of self, and just yeah, I'm getting results, but like now this is becoming a problem with this stuff, and you can't let them go. Now you're seeking help. Now you need to totally abandon everything because you've gone too far. You don't know who you are. The ship is burning down quickly.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Would you recommend? Okay, here's the question: is your coaching style different now, or like going to be different now? Like you would tone things down a little bit compared to what you were like in the past?
yeah, man. I didn't even know if I was going to even be willing to do something like this. This wasn't even necessarily on the radar before doing the podcast with Chris. We just said let's try it. We haven't talked in a while anyway, and we just um, he was never pushing that for me to begin with. But as I said, we'll see what type of feedback this receives. And he said, sure enough, there's going to be people reaching out to you who want
Hmm.
some coaching with you and stuff. So, my first go around was a really, really good testament to see where my mindset was going to be and how it was going to be responded, how I was going to react. And it went incredibly well. In fact, this guy is like, you know, in a way, kind of like working for me now. He's so advanced. Where I personally think he is. He's the ability. He's leaps and bounds ahead of what most like guys I've worked with in the past. So the point was, it went really well. Yeah, it was a toned down version of myself, just more in control,
Mm.
just more experience, more wisdom to go along with that. It's still the base. I still have the same base fundamental stuff, and I think the drugs is kind of just where it went astray, or too much drinking,
Yeah.
or it was never a matter of like that my game was bad, or yeah, I needed. I'm not saying it was perfect. It needed some at times some calibration or help from a guy a little more advanced, but I really figured it out myself to begin with. Wingmen definitely did help. I've used what we so-called call as like crutches or as like leverage in certain situations and just maximize them if I could, you know?
Mm. Sure.
Yeah.
On that note, another question that someone had is Scotty completely clean right now, and do you intend to stay that way?
Completely clean to as far as like
So it means
use
like drugs and alcohol.
yeah, drugs and alcohol. No, I don't have rules. I still don't have this whole rule thing. I did do the
Mm.
100% sobriety thing for a while where I did not touch anything. But now I don't feel I could have a glass of wine or something at dinner. I
Mm.
don't feel the urge to continue going. The obsession is not has been like lifted in a certain extent especially when it comes
Yeah.
to booze. Yeah, the absolute
Yeah.
obsession has been lifted. So no,
Yeah.
I would consider myself 100. It depends on what that person means. I mean, really, like, no, I'm not actively using it, I'm seeking counsel or have a sponsor. I'm not in the program anymore. I don't, I'm not, in rehabs and stuff like that. The obsession has, thank God, been lifted where I can have a glass of a drink or something and be cool and totally stop for the rest of the night and not be
Hmm.
bothered by it. It's not obsessed over my mind, where I can put down a drink. It's not a big deal. Yeah, if someone offers a drink and if the situation's right, I'm not like, no, I am an alcoholic. I cannot drink. I'm
Yeah.
down for whatever. I'm down for whatever, and I realize that I could have one and put one down easily.
I think that's a better way of doing that. That's I'm going through the same shit. I haven't drunk in like 2.5 years, almost 3 years at this point. But I
Nice.
don't have a rule. You know what I mean? It was just I was at a point where I was drinking pretty much every day, and it
Yeah.
wasn't massively affecting my life. But it's like I don't want to have to drink every single fucking day just because I had a hard day at work or something. I don't like that. And so I
Yeah.
just told myself I'm going to try just not drinking for a year and see what happens. And at the end of the year, I can drink if I want to. And I've just, like, I don't have a fucking rule in my head that says I can't drink. I just, every time someone offers me a drink, I'll sit there and I'll ask myself, do I want to drink now? And I'll think about it. And if the answer is no, I'll just say, like, no, I'm good. And the answer's just been no for 2.5 years. It might be yes one day. It
Yeah.
probably will. So I think that's like at
Huh.
least for me, and it sounds like for you, like maybe an easier way of doing it where you don't have to every day wake up and be like, I'm an alcoholic. I need to watch myself today and be careful. It's like,
Yeah.
that's pressure, man. That
Yeah, it was
sounds
pressure.
awful.
It was
Yeah.
awful. Like the program was extremely hard and it was way too much pressure. And a few guys, more seasoned guys in the program who had some years behind their belt, even said, lighten up on yourself, man. Like, I know you want to get this right, but like chill out with the whole girl thing. Like you could date a girl. Like the program gives you a set of rules and that you're supposed to abide by. But like they're there as rules and merely like something to follow if you want, but they don't, like it could become really hard and overwhelming for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why we need human contact. You can't live by the words on the paper. You need to calibrate like you do in real life. Or if you do have a brotherhood or a sponsor or a friend in the program, friends, they'll tell you, hey, listen, calm down. You look at your face, you're going through a wrestling match. This is not what the program's about. You need other humans to maybe be able to see what you can't see. Objectively speaking, they're not as emotionally invested in what you got going on. So they're able to see from a different point of view and say, hey, listen, dude, calm down. Why don't you go on a date with that girl? You're taking it too far. They're able to see things. You're reading off the paper over here. That was just a guideline, but that's not a human being. We need to adjust accordingly, you know
Yeah.
that's where the whole pickup lines. Like you could go out solo, sergeant, by yourself with a piece of paper and memorize them, but you're not getting any feedback. You've made it just a
A robot.
computerized robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So,
sure, man. Another
but there
question we
are
got.
some hard pressed rules that, like, no, I won't. If someone offers me, I don't want to come across also as someone who's, I'll take anything at any time. Like there are certain things that I will not. Like
Mhm.
I do have a line in the sand where I'm not going to take coke or certain hardcore drugs. I'm not going to fuck with certain drugs. I'm not fucking with certain drugs. I
Yeah.
do have a
Yeah.
hard line with certain things. Surely.
Yeah. My mindset is the same. So Tdan 187, he had a bunch of questions. I don't know if we're going to answer all of them. There's a lot of questions. I think some
Okay.
of it we have answered, but probably the
Yeah.
most interesting one was, do you discourage men from following the same path as you in the past, like what you did in the past, and do you try and teach people to be different to how you were? What I think he's specifically referring to is like some of the fights you got into, maybe the, dangerous behavior, like drug use, stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think he's talking more about that shit, like the partying, crazy, that kind of stuff.
Would I advise that? Of course not. And I would advise that there would have that's the purpose of doing a program or coaching guys to just avoid some of the pitfalls that I had to deal with throughout my life. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big part of it. To say, there's a better way that could be avoided with looking me in the face and seeing this guy's not full of shit. He actually did this and experienced it. You could save years of heartache that you don't want to fuck with. So
Yeah.
of course not, man. That's why
Yeah.
it's one of the
People, if they respect you, they'll look at your past and then they'll say, okay, well, I like this guy now. Like, I like who he is now. So, therefore, if I want to become like him, I have to follow his entire past. Like, I have to do everything he did in the past. And it's like, no, bro,
yeah.
like, you
Yeah,
can
that's
say, I made mistakes. Like, you can not do that stuff that I did. The same with me. It's like, I said
yeah,
it before. Years ago, I really hated women.
yeah,
I really hated women. It's like you wouldn't look back at that and say, "Well, Andy hated women. I should hate women too, right?" It's like, "No, don't do that. Save yourself that step. Save yourself several years. Just don't do that shit, right?" Like so,
that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Because I see what you mean now. Because as a young kid or 20, and you have no guidance, you look up to
Yeah.
your father or whoever, and he's warning you too, in the same capacity. Just to stay away from certain things to the best of his ability. But he wasn't always accessible. I think if he was, he preached it more into my head, or had, say, for example, kava bars been around when I growing up, I think I would have been. It would have saved me years of heartache. These things have been a game changer. They're I see younger generation of guys going and hanging out in these places and not having to drink or not having to feel the pressure of fitting in and drinking with others. You can have these kava bars where you feel like you're in that social setting where there's a tender and there's you feel a little bit of a buzz, but that's it. It's very subtle in comparison, and it's a good it's a good safe alternative. It really is. From the bottom of my heart, or I wouldn't be involved in it. Chris wouldn't be involved in it, but it's a safe alternative, and I think it's helping out younger generation to avoid DWIs. And this alcohol is so bad, man. It really it could ruin your life real quick. You can age, and it's just like poisoning our bodies. So this is a much safer alternative. And had that been around, or had I known about that stuff in my 18 or 20 years, going my 20s, it probably would have saved a lot of trouble for sure. I would take advantage of that if I'm listening to this, a younger version of myself.
Yeah, it took me a long time, not quite kava bars, but it took me a long time to just be okay with like having coffee dates. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I thought it
Hmm.
had to be drinking, and I was like, I don't really want to drink. Like, I don't enjoy that because then my mind's not quite there. My dick doesn't work as well. I'm drunk while I'm nervous and trying to get her back to my place.
Yep.
Like, it
Yeah.
makes it harder for me. I'd rather be sober, and it took me a while to realize, like, wait, you can just go to Starbucks and like have a coffee. Like,
Yeah.
you're allowed to do that. So yeah, it doesn't have to be
That's where
over
the whole
bars.
identity crisis came into place. It was like that's where I really had to step away, and there would have never been a retirement period or all this stuff had it not been, that the whole drug and alcohol thing taken over, where you're like, what? Who am I without these things? And
Yeah,
you're addicted now to the physical sensation of it, and the mental obsession and the physical withdrawal of it as well, and the fear of putting it down and the side effects and the withdrawals of it. There's so many levels to it. It's like you need to now you need to now remove yourself totally from it. That was where it reached. So like definitely could be avoided, man.
yeah,
It
for
was it
sure.
was
Yeah.
very definitely reaffirming now that you can go back into it safely and be okay, and that you have a foundation and you feel safe with yourself first and foremost, and that you're not a danger to society or going out there really.
Mm.
So it was a big first step.
Yeah, it's like you get a chance now to sort of like you said, like do Scotty 2.0. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
had the same thing with me. Like when I went through the period of like I really don't like women, going through that and then coming out the other side, it's like I get to redefine myself now. I
yeah,
I, I get to do it in a healthier way. Yeah.
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 And I really don't
S-
glorify it too much, really. We'll move on quickly, but I don't. That's funny. Like I'm thinking now, like I don't, and it's.
Do you think okay, do
I
you
would
think
love
other
to
people
share.
glorify it and they
Yeah, I
put
would
it on
love
you?
to. In fact, I wish it will come back to me more. Some of my war stories and stories as we speak or continue to talk about it, or in certain,
Mm.
meetings or something. But like, I don't really. Yeah, I don't glorify it too much, and I think it's like wiped away some of my stories. I wish I had some of my better stories saved up in my brain that I could share with guys. But
If you sit around thinking about it for a
yeah,
while, like they'll come back to you.
yeah, they'll come back. Like even when, as soon as you mentioned a tattoo pull or said
Mm.
something about your tattoos and how you got to pull, immediately I like thought about because I didn't pull too many girls from tattoo parlors. There's been a few, like I said, so it immediately stood out to me. Like, yeah, of course, I remember that one for sure.
Mm. Mm. SpongeBob says, "What have you been focusing on since you stopped being with Good Looking Loser, and what are your plans for the future?" Well, we know your plans are fucking coaching.
I do definitely want to make this thing. I want to be all in on it, 100% committed to myself and others first and foremost. Where um, the program, I definitely need to keep it like structured as well. I never really had it structured. It was more just like a part time sort of. No one really knew where to find this mythical figure. Like, was he on the forums? We did have a way to contact me, etc. But it will be more legitimate and professional and organized, where there'll be a set program that I really think will be an effective thing. I'm taking all of my years of experience and bringing it into what I think will be a very effective program for men
Mm.
to use and work for years to come, hopefully, where
I think it'll be
guy
interesting as hell. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, where guys will get a lot out of it because there's been
Yeah.
variations of this in the past and other like communities and programs were available, but nothing quite like what what this will be. Nothing quite like this. So I think it's going to be great, man.
Yeah, man, I do too. You got a fancy website as well.
Yeah,
Let's
man.
show that. Let's show that on the
Let's
screen. Look at that shit. Look at that shit.
hell
So people can just go to scottywingman.com
yeah,
and good old Crisis Overcomer, one of the moderators on my forums, he wrote all this. He did a good fucking job. Like
fantastic,
I
man.
when I read this, I was like, this is fucking sick. So he basically wrote you like a website. It's just talking about your coaching program, so people can go look at that. We'll leave a
Yep.
link in the description to that, but people can just contact you here on their email if they want to be part of the program. You're obviously going to add pictures and stuff to this. This is just like the
Yeah, bare
first.
bones. This is bare
Yeah.
bones stuff, but this is a big step in the right direction because
Yeah.
now people have a way to find me instead of just
Yep.
randomly hitting me up on like Instagram or YouTube and shit like that. So this is a legitimate site, and people, for the most part, want to know what you're offering. I'm going to stick to the program first and foremost. There's probably going to be a bit of a delay from now to the first program.
Hmm.
So coaching is available, just like weekends or something of that nature. Some sort of one-on-one coaching is available now, but for the most part, it's going to be taking part of this program. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, that's going to be the foundation of Scotty the wingman and where I want to take this. So there's not going to be a lot of opportunities for guys to just do random one-on-ones. Either they're going to be taking part of the program,
Hmm.
and because I think does enough it's going to be enough to really sustain whatever success you do have for a sustained
Six
period
months
of
is a
time.
good
Yeah,
period of time. Yeah.
yeah,
I've in the past I've done 3 months for a long time. 3 months is enough to get some momentum. My one-on-one coaching is 6 months as well now, because it's like 6 months is really solid.
that's why, dude. I've taken stuff from all of these successful people in the past, and we've talked about this, like what has worked. Things that have
Yeah.
somewhat worked, and then we think could is a fair amount of time. What is to rewire people and get people the results they want, and not just be on some sort of pink cloud after one of these weekend workshops. Which because most people didn't have the resources. One guy did really, and that was a big part of his program. But so there's been templates like this available in the past.
Hmm.
So instead of just the traditional, I don't even know if they still have them. They probably do. Just regular.
Yeah,
That was
like
very,
boot
very,
camps.
yeah, boot camps. Pick up
Yeah.
boot camps. That was pretty popular back when I think 2008 was my first pickup boot camp that I did. 2008, and there was a lot of them. They were like running a lot. You could get into them either from Love Systems or quite a few companies at the time. You could join a boot camp pretty quickly.
Good
So,
shit.
yeah, man.
That's all the questions. We'll start wrapping up. If people have any more questions, I don't know if you want to ever do this again. I'm happy to
I'm
if you want.
happy to, man. I love these, man.
All right.
I enjoy them. Absolutely. And these questions are pretty thought provoking.
Bro, yeah. They
Yeah,
ask good
these,
questions,
yeah,
eh?
they do. They do, man.
It's really fun, and if you're up for this, I'm definitely up for this as well. Where you do it live, like I'd be happy to do it live with you. So it looks exactly the same as what we're doing right now, but there'd be like a chat on the side, so we can see people's like questions and they can chat to us. That's really fun because we're just like hanging out with everyone for like a couple of hours. I'm happy
Yeah,
to do
that
that if you
I'd be
are.
happy to
That
do
shit's
that.
fun.
That'd be dope. Yeah, that would be really fun, man. And like I said, I would love to maybe even have the program and have like I've already mentioned it maybe to Chris if you wanted to do like a weekend or get him if I can't bring him there in person, obviously if it's too difficult, we could somehow get him on like a Zoom call or some
Mm,
sort of call where other people could see
mm,
have some there's things that you can offer that I'm not specialized in, or something that you could definitely bring to the table and do like a question answers type of segment with guys,
mm.
or on like a Zoom call or something like that. I think it would be great to have you on the as part of like the program. You know, maybe like
Yeah, I'd absolutely do that for sure.
bi-weekly
Yeah.
or a month or something, and you
Yeah.
get a Friday night with Andy questions and talk, and we're going to bring him in, and everybody's going to get a chance to pick his brain on certain things. Because I'm going to say this guy has mastered, you know, a relationship in which he's doing threesomes and foursomes, and if that's something that's really you're drawn to and you want to learn about, you could pick this guy's brain who's, you know, mastered this. So that's like that's awesome.
I would absolutely be up for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
It
would be
sounds fun
great,
as
dude.
hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have Chris there for like business advice as well.
That's exactly what I was proposing. I
Yeah.
said, listen, if you don't feel like your stuff is outdated, you're right now, your mind is to help guys or with their businesses and stuff. You'd be a great asset to have if you
Yeah.
want, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
I plan on doing
So,
that, taking guys or fashion experts or whoever. We're going to have a lot of guests like in the program, you know. I hope to have a lot of guests because I want all hands on deck. I never claim, like it says on my site, you know, I don't claim to be God. I can't fix everybody's things. I'll bring in as much help as I possibly can, and I know my strengths. I know what I'm personally good at that I can improve upon, and my forte. So I hope guys would do the same. You know, reach out to me if they needed something that they can ask me about. Feel free to ask me about.
hell yeah. All right. I will leave a link in the description to your website, scottywingman.com. If anyone wants coaching, they can go hit you up there. I'll also link to your YouTube channel. You got lots of content on there. Is there anything else or anyone else you want to shout out?
Uh, Now you got me on the spot. I don't know a lot of people, man. You've been great to
Shout
me,
out all the
man.
good
Shout out, yeah,
questions.
all the good questions, all the commentators, all the people on killyourinnerloser.com. I've been impressed with that. Go join the forums and just you know, show Andy some love over there. It's a good place to connect with guys and shit. So, yeah, man, everybody's been on point with their questions. Keep them coming.
Absolutely. All right, man. I appreciate you
All
being
right,
here.
man.
This was tons of
Absolutely,
fun.
absolutely, bro.
I'll see you next
All right,
time.
man. We'll catch you soon. Later, bro.